This is RadioOnFIre.com. Yours truly, Diamond K, in here alongside my man, Greg. What's going on?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Man, it seems to me like the debate we Greg have right now, we've been having this for years. And I put this question out there to social media, and we got some very interesting responses in regards to this question. We're going to talk about some of the greatest rap groups of all time.
All right.
And I think it's going to be too hard. It may be too hard to rank them. It may be.
I don't think now we're going to do our top five eventually, but I don't think it's an exact perfect top five.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But we're going to discuss who we think is in the top five.
So as far as to be one of the greatest groups, we need to establish some criteria here. So what are we judging?
We're looking for impact, originality, being a trendsetter, just changing the game, just bringing something completely fresh,
catalog
and different. Yeah, and it could be longevity.
Yeah,
you know, and I think all those things factor in.
Yeah,
to
I agree.
A good rap group.
I agree.
So
as it relates to that, who do you have on your list?
You know, I got groups like De La Soul, even to the Ghetto Boys. You know?
Well, let's and De La Soul's on my list as well. Let's start with De La Soul.
Okay.
So De La Soul, I first remember this group, late 80s, and they were different.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They were different. I mean, as far as standout projects, because I don't think just a single is enough to be a greatest group, but they've had great projects.
Right.
As far as standout music from them, like what really stands out to you?
You mean song?
Yeah.
Song wise?
Or album, even one.
I mean, like that first album was it 3 Feet and Rising?
3 Feet High and Rising, yeah.
3 Feet High and Rising was, to me, the time it came out, it was just, it was different. I mean, their whole approach, they just came from left, and it was like, wow, I wasn't expecting, this is different. You know, that just their everything, the samples they use, their flow, the production, I mean, the way they dress, the way they look, I mean, everything was just like, what the hell? You know, but it was, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was definitely different from what the current like wave was at that time.
Yeah.
And consistently, they were always different.
Right.
You know what I mean? They were always different.
And see, what I liked about Daylight was they weren't afraid to be different. Mm-hmm. You know, it seemed like that's what probably got them over, because they wasn't like what we was normally used to seeing. Mm-hmm. You know, and I loved it, man. You know, those three were just, you know, everybody brought something completely different to that group, and that's what made it. That's what made it work.
So while Daylight is probably not in your top 5, would you consider them in your top 20 list?
They're in my top 10.
In your top 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're in my top 10. And really, I really have them down number 6, to tell you the truth, on my list.
Wow.
Because really, to be honest, and I'm looking at my list, I have them split with number 5.
Okay.
Because I really couldn't pick between number 5, but I got somebody else for number 5, but I got a Slash and then them.
So they were on Tommy Boy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that had they been, say, on Def Jam or Priority, if they'd been on another label, they would have, or Jive, maybe they would have been bigger? Or do you think they were as big as they were supposed to be?
I think if they were on those other labels, I don't think they would have had the creative control that they did.
Yeah.
It just seemed like the label just pretty much let them, they gave them a lot of control.
One thing I say about them is I think that the influence of Prince Paul on that group
right.
when you took Prince Paul out of the equation, they still were successful. I just didn't like their music as much without Prince Paul.
Right.
But they grew and they had growth, and they definitely are up there. They would not be in my top 10, but they're in my top 20.
Right.
Of all, and I definitely salute them. To me, we can't even have this conversation without mentioning this group.
Well, this group is like the foundation to the I mean, there were groups before Run DMC,
right?
But the impact and what Run DMC did at that time, I mean, they laid the foundation, the groundwork. They were the trailblazers. These guys were fashion trendsetters.
Absolutely.
I mean, they changed the way rap music sounded at the time.
Definitely.
I mean, with the streetwear, the impact of the first rap group to go platinum.
Billboard.
Yeah, Billboard.
All that. Everything.
I mean,
just their whole thing was just a bunch of firsts. A bunch of firsts.
That's why, if I on my list, they would definitely be number one because, like I say, of the impact. The impact that they did for the time. I mean, they gave rap. They took it to another level. They opened up so many doors for solo artists and groups.
And it's funny because when you say took it to another level, people say that all the time. You took it to another level. She took it to another level. This really applies to them.
Right.
They
exactly.
really took it to another level.
Because nobody. I mean, we talking platinum.
Right.
This
is coming from a time when that was not done.
Mm-hmm. And then with the bridging they brought a lot of white people into the rap game.
Yeah.
So that just made
as fans.
Yeah, they opened it up to so many more people. That's why rap got so much bigger. So that's a hell of an impact right there.
Yeah. I mean, literally paving the way.
Right.
For other groups. Now, as far as their projects go, as far as the actual albums of Run DMC, do they have any classic albums?
Yeah. I'm going to say, to be honest, I say the first three were classics.
Yeah, I agree.
That was Run DMC, King of Rock, and Raising Hell.
Yeah. Now, after that, Tougher Than Leather.
Yeah, that mediocre.
Yeah. And
well, that came out 87, 88.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would say it was a mediocre album, but I also say that rap had changed so much from 86.
Just them short little years.
Like within 2 years, rap had changed so much. So when Run DMC came back out in 87 or whatever that year that came out, the whole rap game had changed.
Right.
I mean, you had Eric B. and Rakim, Boogie Down Productions, and Public Enemy, all in 1 year. That's completely changed everything.
Yeah.
So it was a different atmosphere.
Yeah, and they had moments like flashes. I personally liked the song "Pause," but I know that it was not a good song for Run DMC.
I think it was something for the radio.
And it was something for the time.
Right.
But it wasn't them.
Exactly.
It wasn't them.
I mean, even if you listen to Beats to the Rhymes.
Which I love that song.
And Run's House.
Another song I loved.
I think that was they peaking point. And then after that, it just pretty much went down. Yeah. Down
with the King.
It resurrected them.
It definitely resurrected them. It's Pete Rock.
Right.
And it was the time. It completely captured the sound at that moment.
And if you remember the video with the ball heads and everything, and that brought them. They got them known to a younger generation.
Right.
And that was I think that was a big hit for them.
Yeah, it was.
It was a good.
It worked in the club. It worked in the club heavy.
Right. And it was awesome.
Well.
It was awesome, and like you say, man, Down with the King was, that was their last hit. But I mean, that was a big hit, man. You know.
So as far as all time, they are top 5 all time, if not one.
I don't care where you put them at; they're gonna be in the top 5. Like I say, for me, it's number 1.
Yeah.
But because like I say, these guys were setting fashion statements, man.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to dress like them. Everybody wanted to have Adidas. Everybody wanted to be like these guys.
Yeah.
It was a big impact, man, on our generation.
No doubt. So it's just that when you measure all groups, they all stem from the tree of Run DMC.
Yeah.
They all do.
Okay, you know what? I got one for you. EPMD.
EPMD is one of my all-time favorite groups. I put them as one of my personal all-time favorites. I just don't know if that goes straight across the board. I don't put them where Run DMC is because I don't think they had the commercial success of Run DMC.
Right. I think EPMD, they definitely in my top 5. To me, they were more like a underground group.
Yeah.
At the time, because maybe because it was the label they was on.
Yes, unfortunately for them,
Was it Fresh?
they were on Sleeping Bag Fresh.
Sleeping Bag Fresh.
By the time they got to Def Jam,
yeah.
they were already stars as far as hip hop goes.
Right.
But they had some big records with Sleeping Bag.
They did.
That had they had them with Def Jam would have been even bigger.
Because they would have been promoted. I think more would have been invested into the group.
Yeah.
And so I think the record label kind of held them back a little bit at first. Yeah. But I mean with them,
I'm surprised they got to be as big as they was, because Sleeping Bag was just not. It didn't give them the visibility that they deserved.
Well, with any artist on Sleeping Bag, from what I can remember, they were just, to me, like a underground. They weren't never mainstream. Mm-hmm. And they had cool songs that they put out and everything, but small label. Yeah. But like I say, with EPMD, man, the production, I thought for the time, was just unbelievable.
Yeah, always had good DJs.
Oh yeah.
I love the way they played off of each other. One is kind of fun, charismatic. The other one's serious and smooth.
Now that's a hell of a compliment to each other, because it worked.
Oh yeah,
it worked, because we clearly seen that when they went solo.
Not the same. It didn't have the same impact, and it showed you what you missed when you took them apart. You really saw it. Really saw it. But they needed each other for that success.
But when they got back together, it was just like, they didn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
And like I say, that group, man, like with Eric Sermon's production, their styles was just so opposite.
Right.
But it worked. I mean, it was like, it was perfect, man.
I've never heard them say it, but I think that they had to be influenced by Run DMC.
Had to be. I mean, everybody was.
I mean, you take the fedoras for Run DMC, you got the fisherman hats for EPMD, and the big Dookie rope, and you got the Gucci links.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and the DJ and all that. So it's but definitely love that group. I love the group EPMD.
So you pick another group, man.
So I think this group is slept on, and I think that they're such pioneers. That the thing about this group, the Ghetto Boys, has had many versions.
Yeah,
many is probably too much, but I mean they've had several versions.
Right.
This is the version that worked.
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Now, on the one album that Ready Red is on the cover of, I like that one. I mean, I just like the Ghetto Boys.
Right.
The earlier incarnations of the Ghetto Boys were cool, but this right here is the team that worked.
Well,
theatrics
Right.
of Bushwick and the lyrics of Scarface and the bravado of Willie D.
Yeah,
Put that
because
together.
Once again, man, you got three complete opposite styles, personalities, but when they came together, man, it just clicked. I mean,
Yeah.
and they had good production,
Yeah.
you know. But like I say, with the three different personalities, I mean, you know, what I liked about them, man, is that you know they can do a hit together. They can have a Bushwick record by himself and a Willie D record by himself, and it all worked.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these guys were good. This is my best. I like this form of the group the best.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Because like when they did the Big Mike thing and all the other guys they had, it just didn't work for me.
I thought that Big Mike was credible.
Right.
I thought that he was a credible rapper. He was respected.
Right.
If I remember, he was from the Convicts. If I remember, was that the group? I think. But it was one of the Rap-A-Lot groups.
Right.
And I just didn't think he fit.
No, it just
He seemed like a feature, like a feature on a
Right.
song or two.
yeah. I mean, I like Big Mike's solo stuff better, but like with the Ghetto Boys group, I just didn't like the fit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So, but definitely one of the all-time greats.
Right.
Ghetto Boys.
I got one for you. Salt and Pepper.
Love this group. And in the conversations that I've had with people online, this group does not get mentioned. Salt and Pepper does not get the credit that they deserve, and I think it's because they're women.
Right.
I think that Salt and Pepper also were victims of being on the wrong label. Next Plateau, not really known for
rap.
anything to me.
Right.
And it's funny because back in the day, when you would, did I mean to do that? Back in the day, when you would see a record, the label, automatically I would pick up a record just on the strength of the familiar label.
Def Jam.
And Next Plateau, they just, to me, just only had Salt and Pepper.
Really, they did as far as anything that was,
Yeah.
hit wise. Yeah.
The ladies, the impact, the songs, the images, the style, the look, it influenced, like they captured that whole 80s
They did.
thing.
I mean, Salt and Pepper. They always had the in-style hairdos.
Yeah.
The earrings. I mean, they had the clothes. They captured
and the moves.
Well, yeah, yeah. And these girls were actually good on the mic. With Herbie Lovebug's production,
Yeah.
it was a good fit. It was a good vibe. Like I say, because they captured the time good. And I think they represented for the ladies very well.
You mentioned Herbie Lovebug, and I don't think you can mention this group without mentioning him.
Yeah, because he was a big part of the group.
His impact on the group was significant. And after whatever happened with him and Salt, it definitely affected the group.
Right, it never was the same.
It never was the same. And there was rumor of a Salt solo album at the end, and I think she started recording songs for it, but it never materialized.
Right.
And I don't think it would have worked. I mean, you would have to done Salt with a bunch of features, I guess.
Right.
And I don't think people would have
Bought it.
bought into that.
Like with Herbie Lovebug, he was he was the producer, and he also wrote majority of pretty much all his stuff.
Yeah.
And then he had a relationship with Salt.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different story. But
I don't blame him.
Right.
I would have loved to have the
Yeah.
relationship with Salt too. But here's another one. But definitely Salt and Pepper. They're in my top 20.
Definitely.
They're in my top 20. This is, to me, my number one group of all times.
Okay. Oh, NWA.
NWA is my number one group. I think that the sheer impact, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, that alone right there is major. And then you also put in Ren and Yella.
Right. When they hit the scene, it changed rap.
Yeah.
I mean, because nobody was when they hit the scene. I mean, it's like an explosion
Right.
because they hit the scene hard and they hit it to you in your face. There was no beating around the bush. I mean, they exposed a whole different way of living on the West Coast that, being from the East Coast, we didn't have a clue.
We didn't even know about.
There's gangs and that's how life is out there and and blah blah blah. But they bought. Look, this is L.A. This is not movie stars and sunshine.
Right.
This is how it is, and in where we from.
Right.
And
right.
like I say, they're impacting with the production and just Ice Cube's rawness and brilliant writing. I mean, it was just
and like you said, the impact of the group's clothing,
yeah,
that just spread to the whole country.
Yeah, because once again, they're I mean, they rep their city to the fullest. I mean, it was the L.A. Raiders or L.A. Kings, and they repped it, or L.A. Dodgers had they repped it to the fullest. The all black they were wearing.
Raiders,
yeah, all black they were wearing. I mean, these guys and like the music, man, just hit you in the face, man. Didn't sugarcoat nothing.
No,
didn't care. And it just went through the roof, man. It exploded.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing about them is the extensions from Ruthless Records. After you have NWA, Cube leaves, Dre leaves.
Right.
These guys are gone, starting their own thing. Easy still had the business sense and the ear to continue to have groups. And you had this unknown group of guys come from Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they just had massive success.
When they hit the scene, Bone
Thugs and Harmony
hit the scene, nobody, and I mean nobody, was doing it like they did.
Yeah.
With the harmonizing, singing, or whatever you want to call it, and I mean the look. I mean, once again, nobody sounded like them. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was awesome production, and it was it just worked.
And big records. These massive records.
Major records, man.
Yeah.
Like you look at like Crossroads, for example. They sold crazy records, man. I mean platinum plus, man. It was just, I mean that was a hell of an impact, man. Hell of an impact, man. Shoot.
Do they rank in your top 20?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, because of the impact. I mean, nobody was sounding like that. Nobody was doing that.
Even when you had them collaborate with Biggie wanted to do that double up style that they was doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And they had a hit off of Biggie's album,
Yeah.
Notorious Thugs.
Yeah.
Because they were happening at the time, and he went with the best thing that was rolling, man. Yeah.
Do you think they get the credit that they deserve?
Bone?
Yeah.
No, I really don't. I really don't. I really don't think they get the credit because
Why? Like, why is that? Why don't they get the credit?
Maybe because of the singing. But I mean, you can't deny, man, they sold crazy records. I mean, and they had some of the biggest hits, man. It was just unbelievable when you look back on it, man. I mean, you can't deny they are definitely a top 20 all-time group.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
All right. I got one for you. You ready, Diamond K?
Yeah.
Public Enemy.
Wow. PE, as many people call them. I like this group. On paper, this group should not work to me.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
On paper, because you have a silly personality in Flavor Flav. You got a serious dude who I never realized this looks like your cousin.
Which one?
Chuck D.
Yeah, he does.
I never realized it until right now.
Yeah.
Who to me, his rhymes were simple, but his delivery was hard, and that made the lyrics even harder.
Chuck D, man, I thought his rhyme style, first of all, was completely unique.
Yes.
I don't even know how he wrote this stuff because it sounded so complex, and then with the production they had,
Definitely.
it was just so many sounds. It was just so many sounds.
You mean like that whole Bomb Squad?
Yeah, with the Bomb Squad's production.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was just so much going on in a song. And then with Chuck just hitting you over the head with the lyrics, because this guy didn't sugarcoat nothing.
Right.
And then, you know, night and day with Flavor Flav and Chuck, you got the court jester bringing the humor
Right.
to the serious of the matter.
Which I think made it more digestible because
it
he
worked.
he broke it up a little bit.
Right, because, I mean, Chuck just wasn't letting up.
No.
He wasn't, you know.
No.
And then you had Flavor that came in and lightened things up, but then Chuck comes back in, you know, still hitting you over the head, you know, dropping knowledge on you. Like I say, as far as impact, unbelievable, man. Made a lot of people conscious, made a lot of people aware.
Right.
You agree?
Definitely.
You know, I think at the time, man, it was a good time. It was a good era, but the time came, and the time also went, because at that time, late '80s to the early '90s, rap was going through so many changes, you know, and the neighborhoods to me dictated the music. You
The
know?
neighborhoods?
Yeah.
What you mean?
Like okay, when NWA hit the scene,
Yeah.
okay, we're not talking about partying no more.
Right.
We're talking about issues. You know, like,
Yes. Okay. I see what you're saying.
yeah, like with the police brutality, the drugs, the crack, everything that was going on at the time.
Right.
The music changed.
Definitely.
You know, and like I say, you know, NWA came. It's like, okay, bam, you know, we not just dancing around. You know, we're starting to change. You know, but that's what made rap so good, because there was so many different styles and different flavors coming at you that it was that's what made it so good. One of the best eras, I think, in the history of rap.
I agree. I agree. And never fully understood why they kicked Professor Griff out the group over some comments that he made. But this is a controversial political group.
Right.
And so he made some comments about
Jews.
Jewish people, whatever. And I guess that pissed off people in Colombia, whoever was distributing them. And that led to his departure.
Right.
But it seemed ironic that they censored the group that was rapping about, the political fight.
But see, that was the point.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want them getting knowledge, man, and you know, being told the right thing.
Right.
You know, we're gonna silence this. It was kind of, I mean, if you go back to the '60s and the political prisoners, they put all those Black Panthers, anybody that was speaking up, they shut it down.
Right.
You know, and like I think with Public Enemy, that's what they tried to do.
Right.
You know.
But they still went on to have hits and success.
They did.
After that.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that they're one of my top 10.
Right.
Top 10 groups.
Mm-hmm.
As it relates to that. Now, this is a group. Initially, I kind of slept on this group. Not for their impact at the time, but in the debate of all-time groups. This group wasn't one that I thought about. But it came up so much on the comments of this question, and that's Wu-Tang. Now, I'm a fan of Wu-Tang.
You're right.
And when I listen to some of the people make the case for why this is the greatest group of all time,
well,
which I wouldn't put them there, but they're definitely in the top 5 for me.
And they're in my top 5 also.
Yeah.
The thing with Wu, they had a hell of an impact, man.
Definitely.
I think they caught the time. They was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
With style, fashion, their sound with the RZA's production was completely different.
Yeah.
And that sound was just different, man. I mean, it was something fresh. It came at a good time in hip hop, and it worked. You know, I mean, and then they had to me in that group, they had at least about 3 or 4 people that went on to have good solo careers.
Right.
You know, so there was
And they had a lot of offshoot,
Right.
you know,
Well,
Killer Bees and
well, you know what I always said about Wu-Tang. I like Wu-Tang. I thought it was too many people in the group, and some of them weren't that good.
right.
You know, to me it should have been like 4 or
Right.
5 of them all together. But
Right.
you know, Logic Success. You know, they had a hell of an impact on the game.
Oh, definitely. I mean, with the Wu wear, you know what I mean, and all of
Fashion.
that.
Right.
But what brings Wu-Tang a little bit further down the list, where they get these high marks for impact, these high marks for you know, for influencing the culture to a degree.
Right.
They don't have those. There are other groups that have higher marks as far as hits,
Yeah.
commercial success, and catalog. And just because they release a project does not mean that it was a hit. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And
I mean,
that's where I
look, listen, man. If you take Meth, ODB, Raekwon, a lot of these guys had probably more success solo than as opposed to the group. You know, and that's what I think. You know, and that's why I think Wu will go down with having a major impact. You know, like I say, with as far as the group and then the solo careers. You know, definitely in my top 5.
we used to debate this a lot. People did. Who's the standout member?
Meth.
Yeah.
Meth, cause once again, man, I thought Meth was the standout member. He had the look. He had his voice was just incredible, and Meth could flow.
Yeah.
This guy could rhyme, man.
Definitely.
And you can in groups, man. Whether it's a singing group or a rap or whatever, you can clearly see who the stars are or who the star is.
Right.
You know, just like we had this talk all the time. It's just like with Destiny's Child. You clearly saw who the star was going to be from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, and like they were blessed to have the RZA that was giving them awesome production.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I say, that sound that it was coming from him at the time was different. The samples he was using, the way he was arranging stuff, it was like, whoa, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely, man, a top 5, you know, and anybody's, I think, you know, top 5.
But as far as their song, their actual catalog songs, when you look at Enter the 36 Chambers, how many hits were on that album?
Yeah, can it all be so simple?
Yeah,
Method
Man. Cream.
Oh, a big hit.
Okay, so the first album, undeniable classic.
Yeah.
So now when you come to the Wu Forever album,
Triumph. Well, yeah.
Triumph, that's all you got.
That's all you got. I mean,
Man, that was a double album.
yeah, they I mean, besides Triumph, and it had Is Yours off of it.
Yeah.
They really didn't have no standout hit.
Yeah, see, and I think that a lot of times what happens with Wu is that people combine Raekwon's album or Ghostface's album or Method's solo album with the overall Wu.
Right.
And if you do that, a group like NWA is even bigger.
Definitely.
Because look at Ice Cube's career alone. His solo career. You would have to include that with NWA's.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre's stuff, you got to include. You know, it's really hard to do that. People only do that for Wu-Tang, I feel.
Yeah.
And I think that raises them higher than I think you really can put them if you use a criteria.
Exactly.
And I love Wu, but I'm just saying what people do, and that's because they're so beloved.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and it is because we relate, like you say, a lot of the solo stuff to Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, you're right. You know.
Yeah.
All right, I got one for you, Diamond K. Let's get off the subject for a second. I got a question for you. Do you consider Boogie Down Productions a group?
I mean, yes, I do, because it was KRS-One, Scott LaRock,
Right.
and whatever crew members that they included. I guess Miss Melody, they consider her part of the crew.
I think D Nice was an original member.
Yeah.
With Scott LaRock and
Yeah.
KRS-One.
Now, what happens here is that you have Criminal Minded,
Right.
then you have By Any Means Necessary. During the recording of By Any Means Necessary, you have the unfortunate murder of Scott LaRock.
Right.
Then they still recorded as Boogie Down Productions, because that's what the contract was. That's what was known for a few more albums. Then the inevitable happens, which is the solo career.
KRS-One.
But to me, for all intents and purposes, he is solo after the death of Scott LaRock.
Yeah, and because basically he was the forefront. He was doing the production. He was basically the only rapper really.
Yeah.
And he was doing 90% of the production. And yeah, and then once again, like you said, due to probably contract obligations, with the Boogie Down Productions name, and the inevitable did happen. He went solo, which was basically just still the same sound, but it was just KRS-One. So that's why, they were a group at first, but really to me, after Scott LaRock died, it was just basically I thought he was a solo artist. I mean, because it's kind of like one of those debatable questions. It's kind of like Eric B. and Rakim. Do you think they're a group?
It's tricky. Yeah, I mean, you got to consider them a group because that's how they were promoted. They were promoted as a group. I mean, it's just like SWV. SWV is a group, but, Coco's doing most of the heavy lifting.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
And eventually went solo.
But the success is not the same. So it's just because people like groups. People just like groups. A group of people, one person doing something is cool, but you got 3 people doing that same exact thing, then it gets cooler. You know what I mean? So yes, I guess technically Eric B. and Rakim is a group, but or duo, you know what I mean? But I don't list them. I didn't have them listed.
I had them with a question mark. Just like Boogie Down Productions. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
One of my favorite groups next to EPMD, and give me your thoughts on this one. A Tribe Called Quest.
I like Tribe Called Quest.
Right.
And I think that they're an all-time great group. I do.
Right.
I do. You had hits. You had great production. You have longevity. You have influence.
Exactly.
You have hits.
Hits.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely.
What I loved about Tribe, man, was Q-Tip's production was just through the roof. I mean, this guy wasn't afraid to explore different sounds. And then with his style, rapping wise, and then with Fife's completely different style, it worked so well.
Right. I agree.
And like I say, man, I mean, these guys, to me, I think they had a major impact as just being like a De La Soul. They were just different, man. I mean, they were just on a different vibe. The sound was different, man. I mean, this like the production and with Q-Tip had a unique voice. And then Fife Dog, I mean, he gave you the street credibility. This guy was nice. He was nice, man. I mean, he say stuff, and you just sitting there scratching your head like, oh my goodness, did he just say that? I gotta say, I mean, one of my all-time favorite groups. I mean, they had so many hits, man. Like you say, they were together for a long time. Right. So they're definitely in my top 5,
Yeah, I definitely put them up there. And I don't think they always get the credit they deserve.
No.
but that's definitely what you call a legendary group. And I guess we're winding down here, but what sparked this whole debate in the first place is a current group who said that they're the greatest groups of all time. And that's Migos. So Migos, this is what sparked this whole conversation. Migos said that they're the greatest group of all time. And that got one of the Bone Thug members in the conversation like hold up. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so using our criteria as far as influence, do you think that Migos influences the sound now? I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with much of their music, but they are what's the style, they are the look, they are the sound now, and I can't deny that. You know, as being one of the greatest groups of all time, they've
got some hits. They got some hits.
Yeah, they got hits, but they don't have the longevity yet. And it's going to take time to see if
could they become that one of the greats.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. You know, look, we in a different time now, and yes, it's possible. You know, like I say, it's going to take time, but we'll eventually see. We'll probably be having this, debate, and they probably could be in the top 5 one day.
Right.
Another group that had, to me, a big impact in the 90s, Outkast.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. But that's another thing. Like that's a duo, but it's a group. So and I think that it's good that they're coming after we just got through talking about the Migos, because when Outkast hit the scene, I did not see this is going to be one of the future great groups. I didn't see it.
Nobody saw it coming.
I mean, because they had Southern playalistic Cadillac music, which was cool. You know what I mean? But did you think this makes them one of the greatest of all times? No.
No,
similar to the Migos.
The thing with Outkast, as the 90s went on, they had some major hits. And they changed their style, the image, the sound, and it was different, man. And that's why they had so much success, because they sold a lot of records. They were trendsetters style wise. Nobody was dressing like them. Nobody was sounding like them. I mean, it was a big impact, man. And then coming from the South, it was a big impact.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
Definitely. I mean, so when did? And I'm a fan of them, so I don't want this to come off like I'm hating on them. But when did they make this transition from just being a Southern rap group to one of the best? Like, what is there a moment that happened? Like, I don't know, when they did the Love Below Speaker Box album. Is that when it happened? Like, when did it happen? Because it wasn't in the beginning.
No, it wasn't in the beginning. I'm gonna say around 95, 94, 95.
But that's early. I'm saying, so you're saying early in their careers.
Yeah. I mean, maybe 97. I don't know. I
mean,
see,
I didn't. To me, it snuck up on me because I was a fan of their songs, their singles. Aside from the Speaker Box Love Below album, I never got any Outkast albums. As far as myself, like I've actually listened to.
Right.
I have all the singles. And as a DJ, I had to have those singles.
And it was the same with me. I mean, it was just certain singles. It wasn't the whole album that, like, we had a classic album that you can listen to from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever was that. It never was that.
Right.
But they had a hell of an impact.
Right.
And like, especially like being a Southern group, the Ghetto Boys make the first impact being from the South, major impact. Then the Outkast. And then, and then, like, speaking of the South, not to get off the subject because they came out around the same time, give or take, was UGK.
I love UGK.
Oh, man. I don't care where you from. Bun B and Pimp C was just like a match made in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree, man?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their styles and voices complemented each other.
Definitely.
I mean, and the production.
Definitely.
I mean, matter of fact, when I leave here, I'm going to play some UGK because I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood to hear that.
Yeah.
They are definitely in my top 10.
In your top
all
10?
Yeah, I got them. I got them in my top
Oh,
10.
okay. That's so, and I love UGK. What are you basing that on? Is impact? I mean,
They were different.
okay. They different. So why you rank them so high?
Because man, these guys were likable, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Definitely.
the accents. It's just I don't know what it was, man. The production, the music, it was just like it was just like, you want to listen to something different. Bam, that it is. You know what I mean?
Pimp C had an honesty about him
Right.
that was just refreshing.
Right.
And he didn't have no filter neither. He was
No, gave it to you raw.
yeah.
And like I said, he was the one that was in your face. Bun B was a little bit more easygoing, laid back, man. It was just like it just complemented each other, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that a group that, based on these criterias, has to be in the conversation is if you put Outkast in the conversation based on sales and commercial success, I think you have to put Cypress Hill
Man, I love
somewhere
these
in this
guys.
conversation.
Once again, DJ Muggs' production. The music that they had, that sound, man. And then B Real's voice. Nobody was sounding like that.
Is it me, or did they look like they just got through smoking before
Probably
they took
did.
this picture?
Probably did.
Yeah.
But it just worked.
Definitely did.
It was so different.
Yeah.
Nobody was sounding like B Real.
Yeah.
With that.
The nasal,
Yeah.
that flow.
And then the production was just off the chain, man.
And these guys had some major records.
And they had major records, they had major records. Like I say, I love Cypress Hill, man. Major records, they were definitely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were definitely, like I say, with DJ Muggs' production through the roof, man.
Yeah.
I got one for you, and I'm almost done.
Mm-hmm.
Gangstar.
Now, same thing like Eric B. and Rakim. If you have that confusion with Eric B. and Rakim, you can't really. Because Gangstar is very similar to Eric B. and Rakim from the standpoint you got one MC and you got one musical force. Now, of course, you're talking about Premier. His musical footprint is much larger than Eric B's.
Definitely.
But we still got the same concept. Fresh Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Same thing in theory. But I like Gangstar, and I liked Guru over his beats. Now the problem that I have is when they did what I call with Guru, they did what I call over jazzing things. Like when they everything was jazz, and it was like a point where they separated. And Guru was doing his thing, and I just felt like the music choices weren't as good as when Premier was doing the beats.
Right.
And so I think as a rapper, I didn't like Guru that much, but coupled with the production,
Right. And
I liked him better.
But and you're absolutely right. The production from Premier's production was just
Through the roof.
his sound for that time. It was a hit. You could have put anybody really on those songs, and it probably would have been a hit.
I think so, honestly.
Really, because the music, the tracks and the sampling, everything was just, it was a hit.
I'm not trying to dump on Guru.
No.
But I just don't think he was a top 10 or 20 MC.
Well, it was the same
on a
thing.
list.
It was the same thing with the Motown era. Okay.
What you mean?
You could have put like a female singing on one of those hit songs.
Oh yeah.
You probably could have put any female on there.
Yeah.
Because the music was a hit.
Right. Right.
The Funk Brothers was giving you nothing but hits.
Right.
They were good singers. Like Guru's a good rapper. I thought him and Premier, they had a lot of hits together. I thought it worked with them together, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, it's like one of my favorite groups of the '90s.
Right.
You know.
Right.
All right.
So where does the Fat Boys fall on your list?
Now you know, Dom, you done known me for a long time, and you know this is one of my favorites all time. The Fat Boys to me I thought they were underrated.
Yeah.
These guys, I thought that they had skills. They were a self-contained group. They had decent. I mean, they had good production on the first
In the
two
beginning,
albums.
we talking about Curtis Blow doing
with
production.
Curtis Blow, yeah. I just didn't like the way the group went, like as far as when they went movies and stuff and trying
The clowning.
the clowning and stuff. That's probably why I don't think they rate high on a lot of people's lists.
Right.
You know, because of the clowning and stuff. You know, but like if you listen to like the first two albums, I mean, these guys were unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
You know, and the sound that they had, we talking 84 and 85 when the first two albums hit, was groundbreaking to me.
Absolutely. I love Fat Boys. And I love Disorderlies.
Right.
And I hated Disorderlies at the same time. I mean,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. They allow, and I think also we're going back to, they were on Tin Pan Alley.
So they was on Sutra at first.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
just.
same thing, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
No.
And had they been on Def Jam, I think that they just would have done better. And I keep saying Def Jam because at the time, the team that was running Def Jam, the Rush associated labels, like at that time,
Right.
they had this hip hop thing going.
Well, you know, like with the buffoonery and the clowning, I think
Yeah.
started in Crush Groove with the Fat Boys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then it just went from there. I mean, they had a lot of success with the movies and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, they did, and they did pretty well in the record sales. But
Right.
I thought that but a lot of people will not rate them as a top 10,
Right.
maybe not even a top 20 group. Like I say, one of my favorite all-time
I label them as a
groups.
top 20 group.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but a lot of people won't. You know?
Because of that
Clown
that
stuff,
that comedy fact.
Right.
Speaking of that, we're gonna take it to the complete opposite of that. And that would
Oh
be
man.
Mobb Deep.
Hey, Diamond, these guys, man, I love this group. These guys captured that era perfect. Havoc and Prodigy, Havoc's production, I thought was excellent. Their styles, I loved it. Everything just worked with this group, man. One of my favorites,
Yeah. I liked them as well. The thing that was weird, this is completely unrelated, that was weird to me is that Havoc and Prodigy, Mobb Deep, you also have a Havoc and Prodigy on the West Coast.
Right. South Central Cartel.
Which was always weird to me. Like, you can have one name here. It's just like you had Dr. Dre on the East Coast, you had Dr. Dre on the West Coast. But what if you had in the same group a Dr. Dre on the East Coast and a Eazy-E on the East Coast in the same group? That would be weird, right?
Yeah,
but you had a Havoc and Prodigy.
On the East Coast with Mobb Deep.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you had Havoc and Prodigy of South Central Cartel.
Right.
I always thought that was weird.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was weird too. But that aside, I love this group as well. That whole mid-90s, late night, like Timbo's, like they captured that whole vibe. Like they made them, Smith & Wesson, Black Moon, they made the soundtrack
Right.
to that time period.
Exactly. They did, man. They did. Now, before we get into our individual top 5, I got one more group I want to talk about.
Okay.
The Fugees.
Okay.
Give me your thoughts.
To me, when you mention the Fugees, when people mention the Fugees, we're talking about the score. That's it. We're talking about the score, the album, the score.
Right.
That's it. Okay. Now, the first album was cool. You know what I mean? But the impact came from the score. And I think that sometimes what people often do is talk about Lauryn Hill's individual success and lump that in with the Fugees.
Exactly.
But I think it's a setup for a perfect match. And they tried it with Diggable Planets, didn't quite work, but with Fugees it works. So you got two guys and a girl.
Right.
On paper, that's wonderful. And then you have girl who can sing a little bit, easy on the eyes. Then you have a guy who can do production in Wyclef, but and then you have Praz, who kind of plays the background.
Right.
You know, he's the MC Ren of the group. To me, as far as you know what I mean. But where do they roll with you?
The Fugees, man, probably. I liked them before they really hit the big time. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah.
I really liked them before they.
So
hit
you're talking
the
about
big
before
time.
the score
when it was L Boogie.
Oh snap!
You know.
Okay.
When it was L Boogie. You know what I mean? That's when I liked them.
Yeah.
You know, when they were doing the live performances with live bands and stuff like that. When they got mainstream, it wasn't the same. You know, and then after they went mainstream, they broke up. After that, they went solo.
Right.
And so
Yeah, that's why I don't label them. I mean, because
yeah.
to me, we're talking about one album. We're talking about the big album was a score.
Yeah, exactly.
And after that, they break up because just like Salt and Pepper and Salt and Herbie Lovebug, Lauryn Hill had a relationship with Wyclef,
Right.
who was married, and so she's a side chick, and you know what I mean. It got weird, and then they break up. The group breaks up. You know what I mean. And so you're talking about that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Like I say, I was saving that one for last because it's kind of one of those things that was just debatable. Right. And definitely, if you look back on any of these groups, a lot of them had a big impact on the history of rap over the years. Definitely. So we're about to get into our top 5 in just a moment. And Diamond's going to give his, and I'm going to give mine. Because everybody's top 5 is going to be debatable. I wouldn't have put him here. I wouldn't have ranked him so high or yada, yada, yada. But it's an opinion. And for your top 5, DK, you want to go first?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So it's tricky. So we're talking about top 5 favorite or top 5 all time.
Your top 5 all time rap groups.
NWA.
Okay.
Run DMC.
Okay.
Come
on, that's 2.
Public Enemy.
3. Tough, ain't it?
This is tough.
Yeah.
Public Enemy. Ghetto Boys.
Okay, one more.
Bone Thugs.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good top 5. Not my top 5,
I got
but
you.
it's a good one. Now I'm gonna give you my top 5.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Run DMC,
Right.
EPMD,
Right.
A Tribe Called Quest,
Right.
Public Enemy, and for the last one, I had to split between 2, but I'm gonna give you the first one. It's gonna be Wu-Tang.
Okay. I don't hate that list. I think that's pretty solid. I think it's a pretty solid list. Of course, people gonna have their opinions and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
and
but
in the
but-
comments, I've seen a lot of that. But I definitely welcome that
But
the debate.
This was just our top 5.
Our version, right?
It's debatable, like I say, because other people are gonna say, well, should have been this, this, and this, and that's fine.
Of course,
But
it is what it is, right?
it's just an opinion, and I'm not making this up. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
saying.
Thank you, sir, as always.
All right.
So we'll see people next time. And like I said, this is subjective. Of course, people gonna have different opinions on
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
All right. So we'll see y'all next time.
Diamond, I'm getting ready to get up out of here because I got some things I got to do.
All right.
It was a good one.